Video is going to be about Max for Live plugins, and I'm going to focus in on ones that I think are phenomenal to me personally, but also ones that you can pretty much use in your Push 3 because I think that's Push 3 is starting to get a little splurge lately as they have been ramping up and adding more features to the device, starting to get better and better. In fact, so much that I even considered myself revisiting. But I tend to find myself more using the keys, which is why I kind of didn't really stick with it in the first place. But that doesn't mean that the plugins and the things that are existing as far as the effects, as far as the Max for Live tools, are things that you shouldn't look at because they really can replace a lot of these pedals, a lot of the things that are out there. And if you're on the push, you might as well get the max for your dollar, right? You might as well use what you have, especially if you have the suite, which if you get the push, I mean, in my opinion, don't even get it if you're not going to at least get the suite. That's kind of the biggest draw to me to have it, is that you get the most out of it. All right, so I'm gonna go through. We'll be visiting these windows over here that I'm clicking on. These are the ones that typically have your modulators, your audio effects, and we'll look at the different ones. So let's start with audio effects. Any of these obviously can be used and grouped together to make whatever you want um, work. But some of the ones that I think are really important that you'll see on the push is the auto filter, the auto pan, the compressors, the convolution reverbs, if you need reverb. They really have some good convolution reverbs. And the cool thing about the reverbs, I'll say this too. Here, let's drop one in. That you can make your own convolution reverb and you can stack these reverbs together to make more reverbs. So you can shape them. I think this is one that you need to learn is the pro or even just the regular reverb. And by the way, there are presets for these. So don't feel like if you're not the sound designer that some people may be, you can use the reverb presets in the push and then you can shape them and stack them how you please. So those are, to me, must haves. Of course, the delays are incredible. Um, I'm not a fan of Ableton's instruments. That's just me personally. I'm just not a fan. But I am a fan of their effects. I think their effects are phenomenal and actually really solid. You need some distortion, like tube distortion, warm your sound up. Dynamic tube is perfect. Echo's a great delay plug-in option outside of delay. You can use echo. You have an 8-band EQ, which I use all the time when I'm trying to shape something. Perfect in the push. Put it in there, use it. Glue compressor. When you want to do your bass, I use this on my bass all the time. The punch parallel one, it works great on a bass guitar, like when I'm playing in my bass, or even when I'm using Trillion, I use it. And you can see it right here. And since we're on bass, the bass fattener, this particular preset, is actually in not the glue compressor, but it is in one of the newer, I'm going to put quotes and around newer plugins called Roar. Roar is a distortion plugin and it's really good at adding the saturation. So you think about the Chroma console plugin pedal, not plugin, but pedal that they make and the distortions that they offer. This is your replacement inside of Push. I'm not going to say it's better than the pedal because the pedal is going to have some analog circuitry to some degree that's going to make it sound a little bit more natural, maybe. But this thing works phenomenal. I use it on my bass all the time. In fact, I did a song. Um, well, a guy asked me to do a bass line, right, in a song. So I did the bass with Trillion, with this bass fattener and this punch parallel, sent it to him, and he loved it. He did not, he told me, he said, "Did you play this with or he didn't even ask me if I played it with bass. Rather, he just was like, he thought it was phenomenal. I told him I played it with Trillion. He was like, "What?" He was shocked. And I'm just telling you, I mean, Trillion sounds great by itself, but when you add that bass fattener and that punch parallel over it, it just does some miracle stuff to it. So don't forget those. You have the gated delays. You can group these together and build your own little racks, right? And with those racks, you can use those to create your own effects or however you want to do, put macros on them. It's really simple to do. Maybe I'll do a video on that. But of course, you have LFOs. Let's get back down here. You have LFOs. These are easy when you have another plugin in here that you can just click the map and start mapping these individually. And here's your list of your mods and how much you want them to be mapped. So you could have multiple LFOs. These work great inside of the push. There's multi-band dynamics. And all of these have presets. So when you look inside a push, you'll see all the presets. So if you need to try or want to try a preset and then maybe shape it from there, you could do that. It's a good starting point. You have phasers, flangers. So you think about the SP404, you think about all those different things, and you could literally build your own version of it, right? Using all these different sound tools. So these are just the audio effects. The audio effects will work on the MIDI channels too, even though they're audio effects. So don't confuse it thinking, well, oh, it only works with audio. Modulators, if you know what that is movement, right? So it's moving something in the sense of the sound. So obviously the LFO is the first thing you might think of, but then there's the shapers for MIDI. So if you're building a track using MIDI and you want to put some different type of modulators on there, that's where you would go to. We're going to move past that straight into MIDI effects, as MIDI effects are really important. So let's say you want to do chords, but on the push now, I will say this, you have to learn shapes. Shapes represent chords. It can be quite confusing if you play piano, but not really, because you should understand how triads and different things work, how many notes are in each one. Triad means try three, right? So you should be able to figure that out, but it does take, it's a learning curve because it's set up more like a bass or like a guitar than it is a piano. So they added this thing called expressive chords where you can pull this open and you have all these different type of chord ideas in here. Plus you can add your own and build your own expressive chords. So think scalar 3 or scalar 2 or however you want to do it. Tonality, I've talked about that. Now you can take and have your own version of that inside of the push. Now, would I use this inside the DAW? Maybe not as much because I have scalar, because of those things. You still could, though. If you don't have scalar, don't buy it if you don't want to, because you could utilize these chords. In fact, you can bring chords from other places in and create your own little packs. So, of course, MPE control is on there. You have all those scales and velocities and step sequencers. See, they have sequencers here. I'll show you this right here that you can use to create sound. So these should be working in push. I haven't used this one particularly in push, but I know some of them do work in push. In fact, I think the majority of them do, if I'm not mistaken. All right, so let's move along. We're going to go straight into Max for Live. Now, the ones with the red dots are my favorites, are ones that I typically use. Some of these are plugins that I bought from other people. IJO Audio is one person, and he makes, I'm going to just show you this one. This is like a ambient plugin that he makes. I think if I'm not mistaken, this one might be free, but I could be wrong. It might be like $5. Either way, Great little plugin if you want the Chase Bliss mood vibe. That's what I think he based it on. So there's third-party Max for Live plugins that creators create. Gumroad is the best place, in my opinion, to go find them. Highly suggest just visit, take a look at Max for Live plugins, see which ones. They usually tell you which ones will work on push or not. So you want to take a look at those and get familiar. Some of these you won't need because the push, like AZ Labs, is for being able to chop without the push. But technically, if you have the push, you can chop. So you're not worried about stuff like that. Um, I've talked about the FM synth ones that are from uh, Fors.fm, Fors, Fors, and his stuff is really good. They're FM, so they're gonna have that synthy sound, but they sound really good, especially when you throw some reverb over the top. Man, you can make some really cool stuff. So don't forget those. Um, some of these in this Max for Live plugin are the same ones in the audio effects and the MIDI effects. So if you see, like, for instance, color limiter, it's the same color limiter. It's just this is grouping them all in one place. Let's go down here. So these right here that you see I have marked are some more from fours. But you can see that you have FM drums that are in here that you can use inside. Again, some more of the four stuff, expressive chords, flangers. We talked about that a little bit. Some more FM. Now the granular stuff does work in push, but you can't bring your own audio into it. Hopefully that makes sense. In other words, you can use these presets that are in there and they're fun to use, but until Ableton decides to update it, you can't really use this like the way you would use it in the DAW, where you could drop in your own sample and start granulating it. But there are other ways to get around that by using Granular to Go and other things that does work. So you could use those in place of it until they get to where they fix that. Some of these are different third-party ones that I use. By the way, I do love using third-party Max for Live plugins. They are fun to use. Now, some of this other stuff that you see here are plugins, but they usually work better grouped together with other ones that make them more complete as a tool. So you can build your own, stack them the way you want them, put macros on them, and then adjust accordingly by building your own racks. So that works really good. I'm more focused on the ones that you probably will pull out and use immediate and get immediate access. I'll show you a couple of the ones that are built. There are some out there that you can buy that actually replace, like, they're more like a 404 collage of plugins that are stacked into a rack that allow you to perform on the push. And there's a bunch of them out there, and I'll show you just a couple of those. This one, I believe it might still be free. It's called Oxidide, I believe, or Oxidide. And it's basically a tape emulator. So you can see the different tape models that they have over here. And this is IJO Audio. I think he did this one for free. So you should just grab it because it'll give you that tape emulation on your tracks, right? So you can use this on your audio or whatever. I'm trying to get to stuff. Pitch Loop 89, another really good one right here to create some unique, interesting things with regards to sound. Now, this is when you want to get real different. I'm going to say different. That's a better word. I'm going to get rid of those. All right. Then let's keep it going. So I'm trying to move through here because I have a lot of third party. This one is really cool. And if you're on the latest, I think, version of the push, I'm going to put this out here. So this is Radio Garden. And radio. All right, so I don't get copyright strike. Radio Garden is amazing, man. Listen, if you want to sample the radio, right in your DAW, here you go. Radio Garden. You can move around the world and move around the world and grab bits and pieces of audio from radio and then just start it texturizing it or whatever you want to do. So last I checked, this plugin is out there. You'll have to search it up. It's not easily found, but it's radio. If you search up radiogarden.amxd, you can find it for free. And you can use this one to really do some crazy stuff. Now, what I would personally do is put it on and then add some effects at the end of it so that you can just try to just start manipulating it. And I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, mind you, I don't have the push anymore, that it works inside of the push. Because I think when they built it, they were making it for that, if I'm not mistaken. But I could be wrong. So take that with a grain of salt. But it's still worth having in your arsenal because you can use it to capture that. All right, that's Radio Garden. I would grab that one for free. There's a lot of free ones, and some of them you need to pay the creator for, which is cool, man, because it's worth it. By the way, Fours.fm does have a few that are free. I think Pluck, ROM, which is like a reverb. So check out the free ones if you are, don't want to spend money right now. Just check out the free ones first. All right, so let's keep it pushing. Keep it pushing. Anyway. All right, let's go. So some of the rest of these are paid versions and third parties. So the other thing is I'm going to go to my favorites because sometimes I can find what I'm looking for a little bit quicker. See, a lot of these are third party devices, but let me show you like a rack. Like here's an effects rack somebody built for space. So let me pull it up right here. So you see how I'm going to open it up and show you all so here's the tools inside of it: a grain delay, a reverb. And if you keep going, yeah, that's pretty much what that is. So you see how you can hit random and it randomizes the macros. So you can do this inside a push. There's actually the random button sits, I think, on the left side, if I'm not mistaken, down below. And you can randomize presets so that you come up with new presets and then save them over here as a macro variation inside a push. Crazy, right? So if you start doing that, what you do is you come up with these cool effects, presets, super simple, and now all of a sudden you're making music, dope music in your presets, or your effects are being randomized in that case. So you can buy these from a guy named, I think his name is Elephant. Let's see if I open this up, I'll show you. I think it's spelled HT. I might spell this wrong, so give me a second. It's not elephant, but. And then I think I'm gonna put what we do. We'll do Ableton after his name. I'll get the spelling for you in just a second here. I just gotta find it. Here we go. So it's ELPHNTIO, and he makes all kinds of cool creative tools for Ableton Live. So if you go in here and go to his Ableton packs, you'll see these are some of the things that he's made for it, and you can purchase them if you like, right? So texture is really cool. I've tried a few of these myself. Now, this is the one I was just showing you. It's actually on sale, which I would say buy it if you're interested in it. But it's basically a generator that generates sounds. It can generate instruments for you. And I said I don't like a lot of the instruments. It's true. But when it comes to pads and synth sounds, Ableton can do that pretty well. So highly suggest getting things like this. Sometimes he'll have free things Some things are obviously paid for, but he also, if you go to curated collection, he shows you, it's like, here's the Ford stuff, right? So he shows you other tools that you can use in Ableton. Now, some of these work in the Push 3 and some of them don't. In fact, some of them you don't even need them because the Push has so many cool features that you just really don't need them. But the effects is where you want to pay attention to because there are a ton of them and they work really well. In my opinion, most of them are really, really well. So anyway, again, elephant.io is what it is. All right, that's enough of that. Back to here. And I use these. In fact, if you go listen to any of my albums prior to maybe the first one that I did, they're all using these different effects. At some point or another, I'm using one of these effects in my stuff. So check that out. I think you'll enjoy it. There's this guy who makes he's K Clem, but I think it's Constantine Clem or something like that. He does an Echo Boy that's really cool. If you check out his website, he makes stuff for Arturia too. I know he does some of their presets. So check him out. Really good. You heard of God Particle? There's a guy on Gumroad that make one called God Popsicle. It lives right here. Look at this on my main channel as part of my master chain. So really cool plugin. And it's a Max for Live plugin. It just stays on here for me. Does something to the sound. I can't describe it. You need to just try it. But it's not super expensive either. That's what's cool about it. Because I'm not paying no $100 for God Particle. No offense to the creator of it. I'm sure it's good, but this thing was probably like $10 and it does basically what it's doing. Right. So for me, that's a good deal. And it works on the Push 3, by the way. I can tell you that for sure because it was on my effects chain. Now, let's say you want some of those devices that, like maybe like the SP404 has, where there's a guy, and I can't remember his name, but he put out a lo-fi effects for the Max for Live, and you can find it. And here he has this high C20. We also probably think of RC20 maybe plug-in. He has a lo-fi, I think this one's called Lo-Fi R or something like that. And it has like the crush, the repeat. So here's some effects you can use in a chain. And you can see all the effects he used by clicking this button here. There's an artist, I think his name is MKey Key or something like that. So here's an effects pedal that is kind of mod mimics his style or his sound. So you can see all the stuff they put in the chain right here. And then this one, Swerve Analog Machine. I haven't used this one, but again, same principle. Saturation, it's more like a tape. So you have all these different ones, and you can see there's presets that you can save your own. And here's some of the stuff that's used in it. So tons of tools. The limiters are really good in Ableton, in my opinion. All these tools can be used in your push, and I highly suggest getting them. If you guys know who Kalen Ellis is, he makes his own stuff too. You can check out Kalen Ellis. Again, Kclem makes this cool generator plugin that does ambient music. So if you want like some ambient pads and chords, you just hit random. And I don't have my keyboard plugged in, but if you plug a note in, it goes pretty. I've used this in a lot of songs too. So, I mean, you just hit the random and whatever sound you get, you roll with it. It works. Let's see. I forgot the guy that does warm glow. That's warm glow. But his stuff is really cool. These are all, again, third party. Oh, check out Seed Stage. I did some videos on this, if I'm not mistaken, But they have your stereo widener called Earth Cry. He got some good stuff. The mono tools. If you want that console 8056, here I'll show you what it looks like with the EQ73. All those cool dials, the plugins that you see, or racks that you see people using for mixing, and they all work in push 3. So if you want like some really good mixing tools, check out Mono Tools. Really good stuff. He has the comp 54 here. I'll show you this one. So your compression at 54. So you have the EQ 73, the comp 54. I bought them all because they're really good and they work in push 3. And this is the console 80. Then you have Curves, which is another EQ that he put out. Hold on, let me get that. That's not what we want. No, this one. Sorry. Curves EQ looks like this. Really good for sound shaping. You get your high shelf, everything. So these all work in the push 3, and you can buy them. And that's Mono 1 is like a little synth he made. The Octo comp is good. So grab that. Here, I'll show you what that looks like. Really good for setting the input output, and you can change how much of it and side chain. So it's all there, guys. I mean, if you go out and buy pedals, I mean, that's cool. There's nothing wrong with it. They work great too, but you can get a lot of good. Here's the tape one that was made too. So you can get that tape from Mono. And then you can adjust the tape by clicking here. Different types of tape, how much hiss and how much wear you want on it. So I highly suggest using these because probably for like under $100, you could have them all. I'm not saying everything I have, but the mono tools, you could probably have like all of it for like $75. I mean, that's crazy. And they're working the push 3, even crazier. So now you have your mixing tools set up, put them on your master chain, set up a template, and now you have something that pops up every time you open it, so you don't have to add plugins so much. Definitely set up a template. That's going to save you a lot of time. In fact, I use my template in here. I have all my plugins. You'll see my bass is already set up. That's how I'm moving quick, making songs, right? I'm not spending a lot of time messing around with all this. It's set up the way I like it, and I just go to town and have fun. So you can do the same, right? It's not complicated. Let me think about what else is out there that you might be interested in. Okay, so that's the ones I think personally. Now, again, Roar come with the distortion comes with it. So you don't have to go buy all these third party, but if you want stuff already built and you don't want to build it yourself, these are perfect. So I have RC20 by the way, but this HC20 color one works great for the replacement. So I'm just throwing it out there. Again, not saying you need to go buy all this stuff or get any of this, but because it's so cheap, you could for the price of one plugin or even a pedal, you could have them almost all for that price or less. So believe me when I say it's worth looking into, especially if you're on the push 3, especially because now you have all your stuff built in. So all right, that's enough of me ranting and talking about how much I like all this. You guys keep making music, have fun, enjoy yourself. Hope your day is going well, and I'll see you on the next video.